Hey, what's up, everybody? Kendall here with the Wealthy Legacy Journey. I'm super excited to have you guys on to another episode today. Our title is When Life Throws You Curveballs. And I tell you what, over the last 2 weeks or so, life has been just chucking throw ball or curveballs my way, and trying to dodge them, trying to catch them, whatever you want to use for the analogy. But it's been crazy, and I wanted to just bring you guys in to the thought process and some of the things that are happening and updating behind the scenes. Um, some of the things, even just mental growth that I've been going through the last couple weeks. Last week I kind of alluded to a potential change one direction, that possibly was in regards to a fund. That is probably not going to end up playing out that direction, um, which is really why I didn't go into it too much last week. It was more of a conversation that was happening. And so that's kind of behind us now. But, as you guys can even hear, on top of everything else, I'm feeling under the weather. We've all been struggling with just kind of that, sick season right now. But I wanted to make sure I got this out to you guys. One thing that I wanted to start off with, though, inside of your wealthy legacy journey, like as you guys know, what I've talked about a lot leading up to this point has been a lot of really defining of what you're going to do and the path you're going to take and your focus. Um, you know, One of the first books that I read, actually, it was the first book report that I did, was EntreLeadership by Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey has a great, Financial Peace University. And I love, his process and what he does, especially, those first couple baby steps. And, really that is do the $1,000 emergency fund, and then it's pay off the debt. And then it's, you know, create a fully funded emergency fund. And those are steps one, two, and three of Dave Ramsey's baby steps within Financial Peace University. And it's so good for teaching you discipline in and around money. And it's so interesting because there's such a I want to say a difference in school of thought for what most people feel between guys like Robert Kiyosaki, being like this, kind of investing legend, heavy debt, heavy real estate. And then you have Dave Ramsey, who's like absolutely no debt. And I feel like people create this divide that doesn't really have to be there because it's interesting. Like, even as I've read through a lot of this stuff with Robert Kiyosaki, he talks a lot about the importance of discipline in and around your money, your personal finances, especially in the beginning. Well, so does Dave Ramsey. That's the importance of a lot of those initial baby steps. And so I've seen so many people playing the game that they think the purpose is to make more money. And I'll be honest, I fell into that trap too. There's people that are employees that fall into that trap. There's people self-employed that fall into that trap, thinking that the key to winning is to be able to just make more money. But the problem is that one of the most expensive taxes that we can pay is lifestyle tax. And the sense of as your income goes up, your lifestyle expenses tend to go up with it. And so that's really, when you look at what Robert Kiyosaki talks about putting together your personal cash flow statement, the whole goal is how do I get my personal income up? How do I get my expenses down? How do I create cash flow? Here at the Wealth Legacy Journey, we call that, your active income. And then once you've mastered active income, then you start looking at how do I create active investment income, passive investment income off of the extra cash flow once that debt is taken care of. Because here's the problem. Last week, I think it was last week, we talked a little bit about the eighth wonder of the world, compounding, and money that compounds, compound interest. And so the problem is if you have all this debt and you're paying interest on that debt that's compounding, it could be working against you. And for a lot of people, they have this bad consumer debt that is absolutely working against them in that compound interest department. So us as investors, we really got to think about how do I get out of that so I can get into a better, healthier vehicle? How can I be the one earning instead of the one paying the compound interest? And so, Libby and I have done a lot of really looking at the budget, going in hardcore, figuring out how do we get our expenses down. I've really been, trying to figure out how do I get my active income up? How can I make more, spend less, and create the gap, create as much cash flow as possible? And so we attacked our debt, as you guys know, at the end of 2023, we paid off that debt. So the first a little bit here into 2024. We've been building up emergency fund. We've been pulling out of just different places here and there. And so we're now to the point where we've got almost 10,000 saved up for our, really our little investment fund. And we were able to do that fairly quickly because of the skill sets that I've acquired over the last couple of years. I've learned how to create a large active income. Problem was, is for most of those years, I also had a really large amount of expenses. But now we've gotten the debt paid off. We've really pushed our expenses down. So we have a big active income and we've pushed our expenses down. We were able to create this window of cash flow. And so that really has helped, push things along. So I say for you guys, no matter where you're at in your financial journey, figure out how can you get your active income up. I would say, especially at the beginning, how can you get your active income up? How can you get your expenses down? And how can you create that gap of cash flow? That's going to be one of the most important first steps to getting started. Now, it doesn't always have to stay this way. From what I've heard from a lot of other people, we're going to experience that inside of Double Dare Your Money. But how can I take those steps? So we've been doing that, and there's been a lot of great things. I want to read you guys two quotes that Libby sent me earlier this week, just because of a lot of, like I said, those curveballs, the storm clouds, the difficulties that we've been facing this week, and the decisions that have had to be made. I'm going to tell you about those in a second, but I want you to hear these quotes because these were encouraging to me as I was trying to figure out how to make decisions. And I know you guys are probably going through a lot of decisions right now too. So it says, it's don't quit. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, when you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't quit. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tent of the clouds of doubt, and you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems far. To stick to the fight when your heart is hit, it's when things go wrong that you mustn't quit. And there's no known author to that one. She just sent me the quote. This other one, no horse gets anywhere until he is harnessed. No steam or gas ever drives anything until it is confined. No Niagara is turned into light and power until it is tunneled. And no life ever grows great until it is focused, dedicated, and disciplined. And that was by Harry Emerson. And I just thought that was really good about just like that focus, don't give up, don't quit, just that channeled direction. That's really been kind of a lot of what we talk about in the wealthy legacy journey. A lot of the places that I've gone wrong the last couple of years is that lack of focus. And then even I think it was last week we talked about that becoming Warren Buffett documentary. I remember there's one point in the documentary that I think it was Bill Gates' dad asked Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, many years ago, like what would be one of the determining factors for both of you and your success up to this point. And they both, without discussing between each other, wrote on a piece of paper one single word, folded it, handed it over, and they both wrote the word focus. And I just thought that's so good. It's a place I've really lacked. I've lacked that discipline. I've lacked that focus. And I actually watched a really neat interview and then lesson by Alex Hormozi, who I first kind of came into contact with in the Two Comma Club a few years ago, but then I branched away and I haven't really kept up with any of that community. It was really interesting. So I'm going to share that with you guys in a little bit. One of the highlights, one of the goal successes, and because it's always good to celebrate, what has gone well, is I finished up another goal. I read this awesome book, and I realized I don't have the cover. I never read my books with the cover, but I always try to put the cover back on before I do the videos. But I had it in my backpack. I didn't have the cover. But this is the little book that still beats the stock market. And I think, let me not even just, I know his last name. It's here is Greenblatt, but let's see if we can find the author here. Right, it is Joel Greenblatt, and I got this book a long time ago, and it's just sat there. And I was watching through some investments videos, specifically by the Swedish investor. He's got some really great content out there on YouTube in and around specifically investing and some of his book reports. Wow, I watched one of his book reports and realized I have a long way to go. His was great. Mine are not so great. But anyways, and so I was like, I think I own that book. And I went out there, I read it. I read this book in probably 3 hours total. It's a short read, but it was so good. And it just gave a really powerful stock market strategy and a powerful why. So I'm going to be putting out the book report for the little book that still beats the stock market. And so keep your eyes open for that book. But that was, that was just a good accomplishment for me. Because I never was a reader really until Entre Leadership. Honestly, I read that book and I was like, man, I fell in love. And then I read Go to Great by Jim Collins. I was like, wow, this is so good. And then I read, I think from there we've done the two Robert Kiyosaki books, and then we've got this book here, and it's just been like, wow, I'm finally I'm finding something that I really am passionate and in love with this, but realizing the amount of focus and dedication it's going to take to this path if I want to see it come to fruition. And so that's going to be the same for you guys. Like, it's going to take focus, it's going to take discipline. Um, but if you continue to water the grass, that's, I heard this the other day by Nikki Gumbel in my Bible in a Year plan that I'm doing. And he said, the grass is not greener on the other side of the fence necessarily. The grass is greener where you water it. And that was so good. I think we talked about that a few weeks ago. But really just where you focus your time, your energy, your attention, like that's where you're going to see fruit. Um, so, anyways, now to the big news to share this week. Um, I, I'm losing my job. And it's crazy. It's crazy to even think that that kind of hits me because, like, not too long ago, um, I was like, man, the job was the big job word. I didn't want a job, and it was like, what am I? And then it's like, I have this job, and it's really been interesting. It had nothing to do with performance or anything like that. In fact, I was top performer 2 months in a row inside of my job. Um, but basically, and this is not talking negatively on anybody, but this is just letting you guys in on why and why I made the decision that I made, because it was a voluntary leave. Basically, I was approached, and for me, I work at the office 2 days a week. I work from home 3 days a week, and so that way I can have lunch with the family, and I don't have to. It's like a little over an hour drive to the office, and so it's like, well, I'd rather take that hour drive and apply it to somewhere I'm a little bit more useful with my time. Um, and so I was asked to basically cut my pay down. Um, Off of what I'd be earning. And in my sales role, whenever it was all said and done, looking at the figures based on what was producing, um, the production was going to have to go up. The income would likely remain the same or possibly come down. And I was being asked if I could come in 5 days a week. And so there were just so many negatives to that situation. I was like, man, I'd rather just focus on my own investments and go get another job somewhere. And so that was really what my thought process was. Um, but my immediate gut reaction was like, okay, let me look for a JV because I found just so much fruit in looking in joint ventures. Um, and so I talked to a few different people, and there was one opportunity possibly that might come up for me to JV inside of a fund. But we just couldn't agree on what that would look like, and that was okay. And so I was like, well, I don't think this is really going to work out long term for either one of us. So let's not even try to like pursue that road too far. I sat down with my friend Nathan, and I was like, dude, like I don't know what to do. I need some advice. I need some wisdom. I need some counsel. Like, you're a step ahead of me. You figured out how to get this thing to work where I haven't. Like, I need help. And it was interesting. Really, I think what it came down to be honest with you, was focus. And his challenge to me was I've had a lack of focus, because I've just jumped from thing to thing to thing. And he was like, you've learned so many things. You have so many skill sets. You have so much potential. Praise the Lord. But he was like, you lack that focus to just stick with the grind. And I realized, like, I think that's why I've been so successful inside of joint ventures. Because when I think back to all the joint ventures that I've been successful at, I can even look back specifically at Ambition Group with Nathan in the beginning when we were flipping, um, Labrador Partners with Aaron and Carson, and then even Casey with NTX, and even the short partnership I had again with Nathan with NK, Legacy Properties, and so all those joint ventures. I look at that and I was like, okay, why was flipping houses with Nathan successful? And that's because Nathan had a very specific mission statement, a very specific goal, a very specific direction, a very specific thing that was done over and over and over and over. Now I'm able to be a go-getter. I'm able to do things. I'm able to figure things out. So when he said, hey, we need to do this. Well, because I was committed to that partnership and holding up my end, I was able to be dedicated and disciplined, but then all of a sudden that went from like feeling like great and fun to feeling like a job. And I was like, man, I don't want to do a job. I didn't sign up to be an entrepreneur and do a job. I don't want to do this. I want to break away. And I'd break away, and all of a sudden I would be having the time of my life trying all these new things, but they weren't income producing. And Nathan was like, you've got to focus on something that produces income. And that might seem so like duh, but it's hard because I think, at least for me, when I thought, well, what do you get as an entrepreneur? I thought you get freedom. But that doesn't mean freedom to just do whatever the heck you want. It means freedom to focus on the thing that, the one thing that you want to do, and that you can do really well. And and so it's interesting. He challenged me really. He said my challenge to you is to be an employee of your business. So I have an LLC. It's KO Cash Real Estate LLC. And he said, I challenge you, instead of going to get a job. And he said, what were we able to produce in NK within just 4 months? What were you able to produce for NTX home buyers in just a couple months? And he's like, so, we have our deal, our big land deal that Nathan and I JV'd inside of NK Hudson. It was a land development deal. It's about to pay off, which means that, very excitingly, we're about to go from, the journey of 5 to 6 figures, inside of the wealthy legacy journey. We're going to be going from 6 to 7 figures. And as I've been really just mulling on what does that next step look like, I realize that it is dedicated and disciplined focus. It's not about finding the $1 million idea. It's not about knocking out a massive grand slam that blows everybody's mind. It's about hitting base hit after base hit after base hit. And so that's kind of been coming to the forefront of my realization of, like, really, to get to this next step is going to just take that, uninterrupted focus and discipline, on what is actually producing. And so when Nathan said, hey, my challenge to you is to be an employee to KO Cash Real Estate, it made sense. He said, my challenge to you would be to set weekly, monthly, and quarterly goals for yourself, just like you did inside of NK, just like you did for the team when I started building a team for NK. He said, set goals for yourself as if you were an employee, and honestly tell yourself, like, hey, here's what I'm going to pay you for a salary, as if I'm paying myself. And if I don't meet those markers, I would have to fire myself. So be an employee that I wouldn't want to fire. And he said, do that until you're confident and ready to hire somebody to do your role, and then hire them and hold them to the same standard. You have to hold yourself to the standard if you want to hold them to that standard. And that was powerful. That was, honestly, it was just like a confirmation. It was like, okay, because it was really scary. I was really thinking about, like, man, I like the stability of the job. It's been nice. I think I might just get another job, take the money that we're getting from Hudson, because I don't want to lose it again, and just, keep investing that slowly but surely over time. And he was like, and he really just challenged me. He said, what have you done in a few months for NK? What did you do for a few months in NTX? And he said, if you took the 40 hours a week that you're going to work another job and you just paid yourself the minimum. So like Libby and I in our budgeting, we really cut ourselves all the way back. And we said, we need a minimum of $5,500 a month. Like, that's what we need to live. That pays the mortgage, that keeps the lights on, that keeps everything, just stable, for our little family of 5. And so he said, pay yourself the minimum possible and really focus on, um, being a good employee to your own business. And it's scary. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm really scared that I will fail. But I realize, my dad always said growing up, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And so that's why, even in the recording of the Wealthy Legacy Journey and all the stuff that you guys are saying, like, I'm reading books. I never read books before. So I was like, you know what? Let's mix it up. Let's read books. Let's watch interviews. Let's, go really follow and go all in for other successful people. And I'll be honest, there's a little bit of a struggle for me as I even think about building the Wealthy Legacy Journey. I've struggled a little bit thinking, like, well, what if I share all these other, like, awesome people's content? Why are people going to want to watch my content? Because, Alex Hormozi puts 10 times better content out there than I do. Dave Ramsey put 10 times better content out there than I do. Probably, for both of those gentlemen, 100 or 1,000 or a million times better content that I can put out there. But I realize that it's like, well, what's the whole purpose of the Wealthy Legacy Journey? And the Legacy Journey, really, if I go back to it, it's really, how would I want how would I, what message would I say to my kids, and what would my goal be for my kids? Um, and then if there's anybody else that comes and watches it, it's like, I want to be able to give you the same advice and success. And my advice would be, well, here's what I'm doing. And here's, my hope is that you can see what works and what doesn't, so you can avoid being burned. And in this case, maybe you didn't see the last 5 years, but it's like, I can tell you what I did the last 5 years that didn't work. And now you're going to get to watch the next 5 years as we move forward into success. So that's kind of my hope there. But it's like, man, I would say go watch the pros. Like Alex Hormozi, well beyond where I'm at right now. Like if you want a perspective of like where maybe you're at right now, of somebody going through this with you, and it's like, hey, we're going to do this together, like maybe I can be that for you. But if you're looking for somebody that's experienced, I have never even hit $1 million yet. So if you're looking for somebody at that level, I'm not your guy yet, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there this time because we're doing things different. Um, and so as I really thought about, even my mission statement, I was looking at, okay, what is strong steps? And as I was asking myself that, I was like, what is it that I've already trained myself how to do really well? And I thought, what I've really done is like, how do I've trained myself, or especially over the last few months, gotten, back into the skill sets of making, calls every day, looking for deals and how to price those deals. So finding deals, pricing deals, making the calls, like that's what I've gotten really good at. So if I were to hire myself as an employee, that's what I'd put myself on the payroll to do. So that's exactly what I set my goals in and around. And, so actually, I have a new note here that I put, and it's in my phone. I have my pen. I have so many notes, but I have a couple pin notes, and one is my tortoise routine. And so I have a daily, a weekly, a monthly, and a quarterly, goals to accomplish. Um, so, really, I think what I want to share with you guys most of all right now is like my quarterly goal is my goal is to close at least one land deal or mobile home deal where I'm finding a deal, and most likely that's going to be a JV or I sell it or something like that. Um, but it'll be, some type of deal, especially land development. Looking for another deal like Hudson is going to be kind of my main focus. And then the other thing is to buy $30,000 worth of book value of real estate through tax sales. Excuse me. And so, you know, that was my quarterly goal because I really looked at, okay, what's the minimum that I need to make? And those are my minimum quarterly goals. It's like if I go over and above that, just like I would pay an employee a bonus, I'll pay myself a bonus. But that's the minimum that I need to be able to do in order to stay on the KL Cash real estate team, or I will fire myself. Um, so I don't want to get fired from my own company because that'd be really embarrassing. So I'm going to hit my quarterly goals. That was a challenge from Nathan, of really looking at what can I do well and treating myself like an employee. Another thing is desired, authentic, and measurable value from the team or group I'm serving. And I realized like I'm serving KL Cash real estate now. How would I want my own employee to act? I need to act that way. So making calls, looking for deals with my free time, and following up and with potential deals until someone closes them, whether they sell to somebody else or they sell to us. Just keep following up and staying dedicated, staying disciplined, doing the boring. Some of it's going to be fun. Some of it's just going to be work, and that's okay. I also know I have a market for good deals. And so, how can I provide value in what I'm doing? And really just looking for how I can accomplish that. Now it was interesting because I was actually thinking about going to an event that was about it basically would help me to figure out how do I do better and better with the wealthy legacy journey. And I really wanted to go. And it's an event hosted by Russell Brunson, and I love the Two Comma Club group. I love, a lot of the stuff that Russell Brunson teaches. I was like, man, I really want to go back to the group. Like, it'd be so fun, especially now I have some freedom. But I sat back and I asked myself, I was like, okay, as an employee of KL Cash Real Estate, would me as an employee, because it's like a Wednesday through Friday event, would that help me as an employee of KL Cash Real Estate? Is that going to help me to hit my quarterly goals of KL Cash Real Estate with inside of real estate? And I was like, no, that would only be growth for the wealthy legacy journey. And going back to Nathan's challenges, how do I be focused? How do I be an employee of the business to make the business income? And so, unfortunately, as hard of a decision that was, especially because it feels like entrepreneurialism should be freedom, I had to say no to that opportunity because that isn't going to take me in the direction I need to go for focus right now. And this is a lot of the stuff that we're even going to be experiencing inside of Double Dare Your Money when we're looking at what does it look like to get to a successful place right now. Um, and that's kind of the question of the hour is like, what do I need to do right now to be able to experience that success? Um, so there's been this huge like fear versus logic, like mental battle within like, what do I do going forward? So, and as you guys know, I've been wrestling with like, do I do tax sales? Do I do the bot? Do I, like, where's my focus going to be? Well, whenever this like finally came down the pike and it came time for me to really make a decision. I had this last week when I talked to my dad. I was like, "Hey, we've got to shut down the bot. I don't have any more money to put in the bot. If I'm looking at what's making money right now, it's not the bot. What makes money right now is real estate. Where my skill sets are heavily right now is real estate." It was a really hard conversation to have, but it's like I have to be focused. I don't need to over diversify myself. I need to stay focused, very focused. And so one of the places we're going to retain a lot of focus is inside of tax sales. That happens once a month. And then the rest of my time, I'm going to be looking for just really sweet JV deals to do on land development because that's two areas that I know. 5 years ago, I knew nothing about these areas, but that's what I've learned. That's where I've grown disciplined. And so even if you're like, man, but I don't even know any investing stuff. I don't know anywhere. I don't even know how to get started. That's really the purpose of Double Dare Your Money is because we're starting all the way at the bottom, all the way with the basics, and we're figuring out how do we even build that process? How do we even build that mindset? How do we even figure out how to pick a direction? And so again, really tighten down our personal budget, keep our expenses as low as possible. Now active income isn't really through the roof, but I told Libby, I was like, it's really nice because instead of me having to go, how do I make $10,000 a month or $15,000 a month to be able to like live? It's like, okay, now I only have to create $5,500 a month. And that doesn't account for everything. It's not a perfect accounting because you still have like taxes and stuff like that, which are important. But it's a rough goal. And really kind of in my mind right now, it's like, okay, well, if I go through, 4 months and I can't hit my goals, if I'm maybe even six, if I can't hit those quarterly goals, um, then I got to look for something else. But just taking Nathan's challenge is like, to be honest with you, I think if I act like an employee, if I move forward like an employee, I think I'll be able to hit my goals. And so you guys are really starting to, this is kind of a time where we're really getting ready to transition. I'm not going to say we've transitioned into six figures yet because Hudson hasn't paid out and NK hasn't finished paying out. But once NK has paid out and I get my portion of that JV, that's really going to be what pushes us into the six-figure mark. And really, as I'm thinking about it, I even put a note for like, what do I feel like is going to be a defining factor of, 100,000 to $1 million for me. And I think it's going to be being an employee to my own business, like self-employed, still has the word employee, right? And so, how do I be an employee to myself? How do I be somebody that I would be excited to hire every single day, showing up with that level of energy? It's like I would hire myself day after day after day because of what I can bring to the table, doing the thing day after day after day. And if I show up to KL Cash Real Estate like an employee that I'd want to fire because they are not performing, that is absolutely unacceptable. And I have done that before. So instead, how do I be an employee that's focused and determined in getting results for the company? An employee, how do I show up like an employee that I would want to hire every single day, every single week, every single quarter, and absolutely crush the goals? Um, and yeah, so there's that shutting down that bot was a hard reality face, but it was really, it was an important bridge to overcome. And a little note, this is kind of just like a side note that I had in here that I would want to tell people. Inside of the Cash Flow Academy this last week, inside the Mentor Club, Noah Davidson mentioned, he talked about the VIX. It's the volatility indicator for the S&P 500. And just a little thing that you might want to look up, just VIX. You can look it up in like, Trading View or Thinkorswim inside of Ameritrade or any of the other, like anywhere you can get like charts and stuff. You probably could look it up maybe on Yahoo Finance or something like that. But VIX is the volatility index. If it's below 10, that means the market is fat, dumb, and happy. That's what he said. And look for things to be overpriced and struggle to find good deals. And that's probably a time to be looking to exit. When the VIX is at 40 or above, that's a time where the market's in a little bit of fear, and you're probably going to be able to find some really well priced deals. And when the VIX hits like 70, 80 plus, that's like full market meltdown. That's like, dot-com bubble, 2008, COVID. That's when things are going really crazy, and you're able to find like deals of a lifetime. You're able to find, -$6 a barrel for oil, and crazy stuff like that. And so I actually put an alert, a forever alert on my charts there. And just for everything, that if those ever ding, like if I ever see like the VIX dings me, like, hey, market meltdown, that's almost a reminder for me that it's like now's not a time to be afraid. Like going back to the saying, when there's blood in the streets, that's when you buy, when there's blood in the streets, even if it's your own blood in the streets. Like everybody's like going crazy, everybody's like super fear driven, and so you can find absolute deals of a lifetime. You just have to have the courage to be able to pick those up. And so I put the marker there for above 70, above 40, and then below 10, just to kind of keep me aware of like where the market's at all times, and I don't have to like keep checking it every single day. So that was kind of a cool note. Another thing I wanted to tell you guys is Libby and I got this check, and it's mineral rights. Let's see. For our for so it's, you can see there this recent check. I don't know if you can read it there, but it says $87.57. And Libby texted me, she said, "Cash flow, baby." And my immediate response was, "Let's invest." And it's so tempting because in the past, to be honest with you, got an extra check like that, we would immediately go to spend it. But now my thought process has totally changed, especially with Double Dare Your Money, and thinking there's no amount too small that's not worth to reinvest. And right now we're looking at how to generate income. And one of the greatest ways that we can generate income and really just generate wealth is to reinvest and to experience the compounding effect of capital over time. And so instead of spending that money and just being gone, how can we reinvest that? How can we turn that $87.57 into an asset? And so that's one of the cool like little things. It's a little amount of money, but it's one of those little things that I've been thinking about. So geez, there's like so much other stuff that I wanted to go into, but we're already at half an hour, and I really wanted to try to start making these things shorter. And so a bunch of the other stuff is really kind of more mindset. I want to let you guys know I watched a really good interview with Dave Ramsey and Alex Hormozi, and so I'm going to post that YouTube video link. I would highly recommend you guys watch it. There's so much just gold in there. I'm going to put a link on the video for you guys if you want to go watch that. There's also Alex Hormozi. He had a 2024 millionaire blueprint that was so good. I had some really great highlights out of that, so I'm going to attach that as well. And then I had some Double Dare Your Money updates, but I think what I'm actually going to do is record a separate video for Double Dare Your Money, and a lot of that stuff is kind of some mental stuff that I learned. Man, I'd love to share some of these. I just am out of time. I'm out of time, and that's all I can do. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say that watch those videos. I'll probably put together a Double Dare Your Money video that I go in and kind of talk about that a little bit more, because I think that's still great content for Double Dare Your Money if you want to watch it. But with all that said, I got to cut it off. We are going to go through our identity mantra before we break out for the day. So again, I'm going to say it first. I want you guys to stay with me. It's so powerful to start hearing these words and to start believing them with everything you have. Okay, so our identity mantra is: I explore the unknown, I conquer new frontiers, my journey is powerful, and my wake is a wealthy legacy. You have to put that name badge on every day and say, that's what I'm going to live out. So I'm going to say it, you say it after me. I explore the unknown, I conquer new frontiers, my journey is powerful, and my wake is a wealthy legacy. Awesome, guys. And just a reminder, wealthy, the way we define it here at the Wealthy Legacy Journey, is simply the ability to cover your monthly expenses without having to lift a finger. That's probably going to be one of the big focuses as I am looking to branch away, get KO Cash Real Estate fired back up, doing the tax sales. That's probably going to be one of the things I start to look at, is how can I create passive cash flow. I got a couple different ideas about that. And it's going to be really exciting because I think this is going to just allow me to build out a really neat portion. I'll probably start building out, that $10 to $100,000 portion of double dare your money while I'm also working on the 0 to 1,000. And so that'll help me kind of bridge the gap there, and maybe be able to get some of that content out to you guys a little bit quicker. Of at least what I did the first time around. Then once we get to double that money up to there, we can, re-record for what we're actually doing with the initial funds. And then legacy. Legacy is leaving a long lasting impact on others who come after you as they receive the fruit of your labor, whether that fruit be good or bad. You are going to leave fruit because we all plant seeds. You have the choice whether you're going to leave good fruit or bad fruit behind. Remember, it's a good seed produces a good tree, and that good tree produces good fruit, or a bad seed produces a bad tree, and a bad tree produces bad fruit, just like an apple seed produces an apple tree, and an apple tree produces apples as the fruit. And so be thinking about that when you're thinking about your legacy. One last reminder, the Google Docs are in the top of the description if you want to get the link for the videos. I'm also going to throw a couple quotes in there from this week for some awesome content. And check out the description for the link to the Alex Hormozi, Dave Ramsey interview. It was so good. Also, the Alex Hormozi 2024 Millionaire Blueprint, I think was awesome. I'm not even going to try to recreate it. I think he just did an excellent job summing it up. So I would go watch his stuff for that blueprint. It was really good. With all that said, guys, this has been another episode dedicated to you and your own personal, wealthy legacy journey. I'm so excited to hang out with you guys every single week. I'm so stoked that you stopped by this week, and I will see you guys again on the next episode. Bye, y'all.